know, it's interesting. I recently read an article in U.S. News and World that said there's 4 problems that can sink America. They're right here in front of you. Number 1 is we don't like to work as a country. 2, nobody wants to sacrifice. 3, we're uninformed. And 4, we live in an I culture. Think about that. This just came out September 13th. I've got great news for you. As Hispanics, our brand represents the exact opposite of this, right? I haven't met a Hispanic yet that won't roll up their sleeves and work hard or take the time to sacrifice for their families, whether it's their families here in the United States or to help support those in their mother countries, or to take the time to get informed. As I'll mention earlier, we know our historical roots. We take the time to stay informed. And then finally, as Hispanics, we actually take time for others, in many cases before ourselves. So our brand is prepared to lead and take action and to make that jump from success to significance. But it really starts with you trusting your brand to know that that is in fact true. So, what are the 6 core characteristics of our brand? And we talked about them, and now we're going to get into detail. Number 1 is what? I want to hear it. What's number 1? Pardon me? Immigrant perspective. You see, I mentioned that our families have been stricken by the experience of political and economic corruption. So when they leave their mother countries, they come to this country for what? For opportunity. They come here for opportunity. So that immigrant perspective allows us to see opportunity in everything. And that's why immigrants view the United States as the land of opportunity. That's just not some fancy gimmick. It's the truth. And more Hispanics are making an influence. We just need to rally them all to serve as a voice so that we can continue our advancement and propel more faces in leadership to create the necessary influence. Number 2 is entrepreneurial spirit. It's a survival mechanism. I want you to think about this, okay? You see, I came to realize in my 20s that in the United States you had a choice to be an entrepreneur, and in developing countries you had to be an entrepreneur just to survive. Think about that. Now, about 8 months ago, I had the good fortune to spend some time with the former Foreign Minister of Security and Commerce, Juan Manuel Santos of Colombia. And I was having a nice cup of coffee with him, and I said, Mr. Santos, what do you think about this? That in the U.S. you have a choice to be, but in developing countries you must be an entrepreneur to survive. He said, I couldn't agree more. He goes, I never quite heard it that way. But I've been working for years to build and develop the security of our country and to expand commerce by utilizing what I call the informal entrepreneur. But because we're born that way, how can we take those inherent entrepreneurial roots and do good with them? And that really made me think. And that made me think and conclude that, see, entrepreneurship just isn't a business term anymore. It's a way of life. It's a way of life. And it's interesting, but during these recessionary times, we all need to have that entrepreneurial mindset. A mindset. No, I'm not asking anybody to start small businesses. Just have the mindset to be able to see the opportunity and then do something with it. Because that's the state of mind that we're in right now. That's where we're all at. It's making that transition of being informal entrepreneurs to formal entrepreneurs. And as Hispanics, we have that competitive edge. So the next time you're in that meeting and somebody asks for your opinion, lay it out, because I know that it's being ready to awaken inside your mind. But trust your brand and help understand that in your groups, amongst your teams, let them know that you were born with this entrepreneurial spirit. Many times when we talk about this in groups, and it may be going in your minds right now, a lot of people say, gosh, I remember now why my grandfather started that panaderia, or why my mother started that, gift basking business. The reason for it. We have that survival mechanism in us. We have a very strong competitive advantage. And 3, this is one of my favorites, Latin passion. Now, what do I have to describe here? We all have it. And with passion, it opens doors to possibilities. I mean, I can remember during my corporate days, and this is early on in my corporate days when I was at Sunkist, and had a gentleman walk up to me and he says, and this is in my early 20s, he said to me, hey Glenn, can you tone it down a little bit? Too much passion. I remember I went back and spoke to my parents, because I've always had this relationship with my parents. They're my best friends. I'd call them every night before I went to sleep, tell them I love them. And then I'd tell them about my day. And my dad, and by the way, when I was born, my dad was 50 years old. So there's a lot of wisdom I was inheriting from my father. And I said, Dad, why are they saying this to me? He said, son, they're saying it to you because they don't understand you. But that's okay. Don't blame them. Just educate them. And then he said, deliver and produce and generate those results, and they'll never question you again. Boy, was he right. And when I was 27, I became the youngest senior manager in Sunkist 100-plus year history. And I know that it was that passion. And I know that because I was able to ignite my entrepreneurial spirit and trust in my brand and live in my ideas and ideals, that opportunity came to life. And that's how you should feel too about your passion. Because when you trust your brand, your passion not only opens the doors of opportunity for yourself, but for others. Don't forget that.